Michaela Renava in the Nesson Studios. I am joined on the line by Deadspin senior editor Diana Moskovitz, who has been a main source of information on the scandal coming out of Baylor. Diana, I want to talk to you starting off with the lawsuit filed against Baylor alleges football players committed 52 rapes in a 4-year span, 31 different players involved, 5 gang rapes. I want to start by asking you about these unofficial policies at the university that perpetuated a rape culture. How did the school's handling of these issues breed more issues?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, and there's a lot of different issues with Baylor, but if we could pick out one, it was really the fact that when they were receiving reports of rape, instead of taking them seriously, instead of immediately handing them off to judicial affairs, especially with athletics, there was a big attempt to keep them internal, to work them out amongst themselves. And that's really where a lot of the problems start, because then nothing else can happen. No other checks and balances can even start to play in if no one knows what's going on except for the football coaches.
What about the culture within the football team, coming from the coaches, assistant coaches, between players, the whole show them a good time mentality and those types of policies that have been talked about?
Right. That came up quite a bit, especially with one legal filing in which Baylor used select copies of text messages between some of the coaches, including Art Briles, which showed them basically talking about what you mentioned about keeping things internal, finding a way to work things out. Hey, is she going to talk to the police? And as you said, that really does breed a culture, because then this is obviously something these young men are going to see and learn from. And this isn't to say that whatever behavior there was okay, but if you see that the people who are above you are just making your problems go away and that there are no repercussions, I don't think we can be shocked that then they continue on through several years, as multiple people are saying in their lawsuits.
Baylor is really on the hot seat right now, but do you think that there is more out there that we don't know about, and that this is a problem that spans throughout college athletics?
It's certainly bigger than Baylor. Like I said, this also came up at the University of Minnesota, and there's been investigations at other universities as well. And just for various reasons, I think certain cases almost get on the hot seat. And in this case, it's Baylor. And I understand why. There's just been so many horrific details, and they're still coming out. This has been going on for more than a year now. And so I definitely feel that Baylor should be getting all the attention it's getting, and then some, but it is not an isolated incident. I think the most dangerous thing is to think that Baylor is an isolated incident, because it's not, and maybe not every case reaches as horrific a level, but that doesn't mean that they're not important, and that we shouldn't be talking about those as well.
So you mentioned the secretiveness and the lack of transparency. Is that because Baylor's a private institution? Would this case be different if it had been a public university?
I do think it would be different if it had been a public university, because, and this varies state by state, but generally when you're a public university, you're subject to your state's public record laws. And it's worth noting Texas has some pretty good public record laws on the books. And this would be different if it were even at just another university in Texas, that were public and had to, say, release emails to us or internal memos. There's been a lot of issues with even trying to get some police reports from Baylor police. So you could never know for certain, but that has certainly helped Baylor control the flow of information. That being a private university, they can basically release whatever they want, whenever they want to. Personally, I think they should be releasing things out of transparency, out of showing alumni and the public and concerned people, this is what happened and this is how we're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. Clearly they don't agree with me, so they haven't done that. But yeah, it's made a really big difference, and you can never know for certain, but it would at least give, I think, reporters and alumni and victims and just people who care, if they were a public university, at least an avenue, another way to pursue finding out what happened. And that's just not an option right now.
What has your personal experience been like going down this rabbit hole? I know you've been there every step of the way, investigating and reporting on this topic, and it being so heavy and serious, and then there being that lack of transparency. What has your personal experience been?
I think that, first of all, I think in some ways I have the easy part. I'm, the women who were raped and then went to administrators thinking they'd get help and instead just had their lives made worse. They're the ones who've been through hell and back, and I'm just here to try and bring attention to what happened to them so that it won't happen again, so that we don't have to have another Baylor, I hope. But what has been frustrating for me, and that even just a couple days ago I was talking to someone about, is that that this is even still going on. If you had told me when I wrote my first story about Baylor, that way more than a year would pass and I'd still be writing stories about Baylor, because they still haven't released everything and we still don't know everything that happened and they're still not answering our questions, I don't know if I would have believed you. I would have said, no, I mean, they're going to do what they have to do just to make the scandal go away, so we'll all move on and forget, right? But they haven't, and we're still here, and there's still questions. And, just that, frustration for me has been a real sticking point for me of just, I can't believe that, we're even still here, and we're here because we have to be, and that's fine, and that's my job. But that's the part that I think has sometimes been the toughest part for me, is that when something wrong has happened, and so clearly wrong, I don't think anyone thinks that when a woman says, I believe I've been raped, the answer should be, oh, just don't talk about it, that should never be the response. And that all this time has passed and we still don't have, real resolutions, and just still don't know what happened, don't have clarity, don't have a really good, strong sense of, okay, this is what's been done and it will never happen again, to the best that we can prevent it, has been the hardest part for me.
What message does it send that they're fighting this lawsuit? Do you think that they should just accept it and admit everything, owe it to the victims, their students, alum? Just what message does it send that they're still fighting against this?
I think, I don't know why they're fighting it, and especially because I know that there have been people who they've just settled with without those people even having to file a lawsuit. So I don't know why now they've suddenly decided in some cases to fight back. Legally, it's their right to. I certainly see the reaction to it, and it's very poor. So I can't imagine that this seems like the right idea from a PR perspective, but they are, and the reaction seems really, to me, it looks like people are very angry and very upset by it, and I certainly understand why. But for whatever reason they have, and it's their legal right to, so we'll see what happens.
Well, Diane, I appreciate you sharing everything you do know about this topic with us, and thanks for talking with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.